The intent of this channel is if you're handy and you don't have unlimited funds or want to go out and finance a very expensive RV and you want to get out there and camp anyways, my intention, or our intention, is to show you how to take something that could be very inexpensive because it needs some work, or something that is actually on the verge of being scrapped or discarded, and using that opportunity to get you out there camping and enjoy it. So one caution I will throw out there is that you do have to have the desire to do a lot of work on your own, in other words, be a do-it-yourselfer, and have basic knowledge of hand tools and some mechanical ability. I am not a professional. I'm not an RV repair guy. Everything I'm showing you is either stuff I've done for the first time or done as a result of getting our own projects set up the way we want them, modified to meet our needs, or just plain old restored from unusable condition to a usable condition. So like, subscribe, follow along, enjoy. It's going to be fun, entertaining, and hopefully educational. Alright folks, today we're starting a completely different kind of project. We have chosen to leave the sailboat on the hard this season, and the reason is we wanted to do a little traveling over the road. We've been campers since we were kids. Basically, our parents both had some sort of tag-along trailer or a small motorhome kind of thing, and then when we got married, it was always a big part of our lives as our kids was growing up as well. And we're continuing on that tradition. Alright, so you can see the back of this camper is completely flat and there's no windows, and I'll show you the reasoning behind that in a minute, and it's the reason why we purchased this camper. The mission is to install this door. Obviously it's laying horizontally, vertically on the back, to convert this camper to a toy hauler. So this is an idea we came up with because when we wanted to go travel, our anniversary weekend is Labor Day weekend, and every time we go to travel, even if most of the time it's when you figure out you have time to actually go, you can't book your reservations in advance and it's super expensive. And the issue is, even for a impromptu weekend getaway, you're going to spend hundreds of dollars just for accommodations. So we searched out this camper. We've always been enthusiasts about taking our vintage motorcycle out in places like Vermont, New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, and upstate New York, the Finger Lakes, and that we've always had the trailer to tow the motorcycle, and then we would go get a hotel room. That would be our base camp, and then we'd tour daily with the motorcycle. Well, we're trying to combine the accommodations with the fun that we like to have with the vintage motorcycle. So we said, well, let's build a toy hauler that will provide both of those things. So we did the research. We found this particular unit that was for sale that had the layout that we needed that would accommodate converting it to a mini toy hauler. In the process of moving forward with converting it to a toy hauler, I found this company out in Adrian, Michigan that has either brand new or used takeoffs in excellent condition of the fully load rated doors that came with the hinges and the locks, and I bought this and had it shipped out here using U-Ship for less than it would cost me for the materials to make that door myself, and that's probably a much better job than I would have done on my own. But it really accelerated the opportunity to do this program. So the door finally made it here. It took, through the process of trying to find a shipper and all that other stuff, it took probably 8 or 10 months to even get to the point where I felt comfortable that I could purchase the door and have it shipped out here for a reasonable price, and that worked out excellent. Let me show you the layout on the inside of the camper and what I'm going to start today. Alright, so again, we needed a camper that provided an opportunity to be converted, right? So here's the deal. The door is 55 inches wide that will eventually be installed and fold down. The functionality of this unit, with being a rear bedroom, had the twin bed with all the storage hanging closet, storage capacity, and then it had 2 bunks. Well, obviously the bunks are going to go away. This set of cabinets is going to be transferred over here and be installed over the top of this cabinet. These series of cabinets can remain because they take up the correct amount of space to have the door be centered in the back, and I'll show you what's got to go on that end. So obviously this is going to get removed, these are going to get removed and relocated, so we're not really losing the functionality in terms of storage, except the depth of those cabinets is 24 inches. They're going to be reduced to 18 inches just so we're not protruding out into the area where the motorcycle is going to get stored. Okay, so you're like, what about the bed? Well, this shelf is 24 inches wide. It's going to be shortened to 18 and raised up, so we'll have a clearance of 12 inches from the ceiling down to the bottom of this structure. And that is going to be, the fact that it's shortened to 18 inches still gives us the 55 inches wide for the door back here for full access, and give us storage for our helmets, our riding gear, and anything else that might need to get stored up here. So well, what about the bed? Well, when I raise this up so it's 12 inches from the ceiling to the bottom of the bed, I'm going to change this to more of a Murphy bed, and this particular bed folds from this direction, kind of folds in the middle and folds up. I'm going to change it so it folds up sideways. And what we're going to do is we're going to lose some storage here, but what we're going to do is move this bulkhead over, and our storage is going to be 18 inches from the wall this way, and that'll provide the clearance for the bed to fold up. This is going to be removed and moved inboard. So there's a substantial amount of work that has to happen here, and we are going to lose some storage underneath, which is going to benefit from the weight distribution, right? So we'll have to utilize some of the other storage under the settees that have access to the outside to regain or just redistribute what's normally stored back here. Alright, so that is the concept. Now is can we pull it off, right? So the distance, this bulkhead here, or the headboard, is going to be shortened to here. The reason why that's there is to provide a shelf for things like night lights and books and other things you might want to utilize while you're sleeping here. So that's going to remain, and It's also the fender is behind there, and if nothing else, that might get shortened up a little bit. So really the first step is going to be to get rid of all of the things that will not go back. When this bed folds down, it'll have legs that come down and provide the additional support with two people on it, and you know, that'll all fold up and store away once it's completed. So disassembly is going to begin today, and I'll reconfigure all of this. The water pump is going to have to move just a tiny bit in that direction, and just tidy up some things here. So one of the benefits of this layout is that once the motorcycle is inside the unit, we still have full use of the refrigerator, most of the storage, full use of the bathroom, and if the motorcycle's in the back and we pull into a campsite, it's late at night or whatever, and we want to go to bed, I don't have to unload the motorcycle because the dinette folds down into the same size bed as the rear. So I know a lot of you are going to be like, you're crazy, the weight distribution is going to be all wrong, and you know, this isn't designed to carry that, you know, this isn't going to work. Well, we've done a lot of the calculations, and what you might not know is that the freshwater storage for this particular unit is a 40-gallon tank, and it is located behind the rear axle. The intent is to move that to the front part of the trailer and only run with maybe 5 gallons in it from you know, when the thing is fully loaded, and then when we get to a campground or whatever, or get closer to a campground, we can top it off so the capacity of the trailer doesn't change. So the weight of the water is like 350 pounds. The motorcycle we are running is only 400 pounds, 450 pounds, and the reduced storage capacity back here is going to be lightened up. The camper is designed to have, like, that little hitch right there is for a bicycle rack, and it advises you not to exceed 100 pounds total for 2 bikes. So there's a lot of weight that is going to be not attached to the camper, because I don't like things hanging off the back of the camper, so I never haul my bicycles or anything else on the back of the camper. So the weight distribution, I'm confident, will be well within the design limits of the camper, and obviously we have to do what any person that owns a tag-along RV or a fifth-wheel RV is, you really have to be careful as to how you pack it. So you know, obviously you don't want all of that weight behind the rear axle when you're loading all of your equipment in there, and you want it low, and I think we'll still be able to get our weight distribution well within the limits. I bought Load Range E tires just because I know that campers tend to have just like the hairy edge as far as the capacity of things. So I went up to the next level with tires. They're all brand new. The brakes are all brand new. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of let you know that I am considering all of the things that could be potential problems with doing this. I'm actually removing a lot of the cabinetry and moving it closer to the front of the trailer. So again, we're adding weight to the back in terms of loading a motorcycle into it, but we're also taking into account we're removing a tremendous amount of material back there in terms of the structure, the cabinetry, and the weight of the wood. So we're eliminating probably at least 50 pounds of lumber all by itself, and then we are moving cabinetry further ahead to further help the situation in terms of weight distribution. So another thing that might be, you know, folks calling us out on is that, you know, what are you doing for the back of the trailer to accommodate the door and the pressure from driving things in and out of the back, because they're not designed to do that. First of all, this particular piece of box tubing is really the only thing it's good at doing is holding your black water pipe, right? It is not a structural member that's too thin, so that is going to be trimmed off. As a matter of fact, the whole rear frame is going to be shortened up, and a piece of heavy-duty box tubing is going to go across, and that is where the hinge will be mounted to, and it'll also be the floor support way at the back of the camper. So definitely taking into account getting rid of the wimpy rear cross member here, which doubles as a back bumper. I've seen people weld hitches to these things or attach hitches and try to tow another trailer, or they put a giant bike rack on and hold, you know, 4 or 5 bicycles, and you go down the road and next thing you know it snaps off and whatever they've got hooked to it is dragging down the road. So totally aware of that. This particular trailer design has really tall I-beams running back and forth on the left and right sides, and then it has angle iron going left and right, and it has 3/4 inch OSB flooring attached to that. Again, we're only putting 450 pounds back here, and if you think about where the tires are located, it's basically like having two 225-pound people standing in the back of the thing. So I'm more than confident that the structure of the camper will hold the weight of the motorcycle, and I do definitely plan on reinforcing right where the tires sit with probably box tubing that goes up flush against the floor to compensate for the going down the road and the bouncing, and that weight would be flexing the floor back there. So some additional cross members will be put in place, and that'll help strengthen it up. So it's a big project. I'm not a carpenter guy, I'm a fabrication guy, so I'm in terms of metal. So I'm okay with the metal part of it. The one thing that I'm probably a little nervous about is shortening cabinets, relocating them, and putting it back together to make it look as close to like it was done at a factory as possible and still get us down the road. So, alright, well, I guess that's enough jabbering. It's time to actually do something and get to work. So one of the first things I'm going to do is I am going, just like building a chassis of a race car, right, or a street rod, I'm going to level the chassis front to back and left to right, so when I put a level inside the camper, I'm actually lining things up to the true horizontal or vertical, and so that's going to take a little while. I've got some adjustments around here, and then I'm going to put some supports more towards the rear and towards the middle to kind of distribute that to keep the frame flex out of it, and I'll shim it all up so it's correct. So that's going to be step one. So I just went through the whole camper, checked all the walls after my leveling job, checked them in both directions, make sure it's square front to back, check the floors and the horizontal left and right, and everything is great from front to back. I've done my best to make sure that I'm not putting any twist into the chassis, including the tongue jack has been relaxed and just a little bit of pressure put on it, so we can continue to have a nice firm surface that when everything is screwed back in place, we set it down on the ground, it's not going to twist and buckle because we've put some, you know, residual twist into the components. So alright, time to get to the disassembly part. Alright folks, you can see I've got quite a mess going on here. I've removed those drawers that were there, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with those in a minute. I got the bed, bunk, and storage area removed. I did run into some problems. I found that the opening around the water heater was leaking, and I got a little bit of punky wood there. I'm going to... that wood actually has a lot of integrity in it. It's just some surface areas. I've got some penetrating epoxy that I'm going to coat that whole area with. I'm going to sister another cross member in that the ends of these will go into. And I'll use some thickened epoxy and penetrating epoxy to restore that piece on the outside. So I got a little patch panel here. I'm going to, when somebody replaced a portion of the floor here, they left the front half of the floor unsupported, so I'm going to put another structural member in and tie it into the piece back there, slip it underneath just to get some support back where it should be. So a little bit of reconstructive surgery here, not a big deal. One thing that I am disappointed with is these bunks are actually attached to the wall. The screws are not accessible. When they assembled the camper from the factory, the screws came from the outside to the inside, and then the aluminum siding was put on afterwards, so that threw me a curveball. I've got to deal with that on both the top bunk and the middle bunk. Those are going out completely. I was hoping to utilize this and just move it up like I talked about. I may have to hack that up so bad that it won't be usable, so I can get those screws out. So anyway, what I'm in the process of doing is moving these shelves over to the cover over the fender. Now that's factory, and I'll show you what I got going on with that in a minute. Alright folks, I've started the reconstructed process in terms of trying to repair some of the damaged wood. This is a piece that I took out and I'm using it as a control piece. This is deep penetrating two-part epoxy. It's designed to really go into the wood and bond those fragments together. So I'm going to soak this with some of this current mix, and I've already coated all the areas that were compromised by some moisture, either leaking in through the opening for the hot water heater or from the fender not being sealed properly. You can see some daylight through the meshing here. I'm going to reseal that before I permanently cover this up. So I just put my first coat of penetrating epoxy on all of this. Once that's done, I'll start putting some of the new pieces in that'll also get coated with penetrating epoxy, and then I will go back in areas that are compromised with a little bit of wood. That the soft wood I all chipped away and got down to the hard stuff. I'll actually put some thickened epoxy in there to build those areas back up, just to put some more integrity back before I cap it off. So that's drying. I'm continuing to fit out the drawers that were relocated, and I'm going to fabricate some pieces for the cubby that's going to go underneath here, and the trim pieces that's going to go there, and I'm in the process of getting the brackets into the wall where the drawer slides are going. Got my supports for my countertop that's going to go up here, and those are glued and screwed to the existing wall. And what I'm really hoping to do today while this stuff is drying is kind of get this so everything is in place and glued in position and screwed in position. I'd like to get that cubby fully defined and pieced together, and we'll go from there. Alright folks, that's it for this time. Remember, if you can't be good, be spectacular.